There is a specific kind of dread that only a bad airport can produce. Not the dread of flying, not turbulence or weather or a middle seat. Something different, the dread that sets in the moment you step off the plane and realize, before you even reach the gate, that this airport is going to make your day worse. The signage points nowhere useful. The terminal smells like 1994. The escalator is broken. There are 4 gates, and 2 of them have no seats. And you have 3 hours here. That dread has a specific address, usually several of them. America operates the largest and most complex air travel system in the world. 45,000 flights a day, hundreds of airports, and at the top of every ranking that measures on-time performance, passenger satisfaction, and basic operational competence, the same names keep appearing at the bottom, year after year, survey after survey. The same airports, failing the same passengers, in the same ways. Today we're counting down the 10 worst airports in the United States. Not the smallest, not the ones in difficult locations with no budget and no options. The ones that serve millions of passengers a year and consistently, measurably, make the experience worse than it needs to be. Let's start with an airport that most people have never chosen to fly through, and that most people who have never chosen again. Number 10. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, DFW. Dallas-Fort Worth is the 4th busiest airport in the United States. It handles more than 73 million passengers a year across 5 terminals spread across an area so large it has its own highway running through it. It is, by the numbers, one of the great hubs of American aviation, and in 2025, it was the single most disrupted major airport in the country. AirHelp data for 2025 found that 29% of all DFW flights were disrupted, delayed by more than 3 hours, canceled, or overbooked. Not 29% on a bad day, 29% as an annual average. That is nearly 1 in 3 flights at one of the busiest airports in the world, failing to operate as scheduled. In March 2025 alone, DFW led every major U.S. airport in flight disruptions. The airport's problems are a combination of geography. North Texas weather is genuinely volatile, with ice storms in winter and severe thunderstorms in spring that ground entire fleets, and sheer scale. 5 terminals, multiple competing airline hubs, a connecting bank structure that means when one wave goes wrong, the next 3 inherit the damage. DFW is not a bad airport because nobody cares. It is a bad airport because it is trying to move more people than its infrastructure and its geography can reliably handle, and the result is felt by millions of passengers every single year. Now imagine landing at DFW on a spring afternoon. The board shows delays, then more delays, then your connection disappears entirely. You are in Terminal D. Your new flight is in Terminal A. You check the Skylink. It is not running. You start walking. Welcome to Dallas-Fort Worth. Number 9. Miami International Airport, MIA. Miami International Airport is the primary gateway to Latin America and the Caribbean for the entire United States. It handles more than 52 million passengers a year and processes more international passengers than any other airport in Florida. It is, by any measure, a critical piece of American aviation infrastructure. It is also chronically overcrowded, persistently delayed, and among the worst-rated large airports in the country for passenger experience. In 2025, Miami ranked 3rd among major U.S. airports for flight disruptions, with 26% of all flights delayed or canceled. On its worst days, nearly 30% of flights were disrupted, numbers that put it consistently alongside Newark and Chicago as the most unreliable large airports in the country. The airport's terminals were built for a different era of air travel, and the passenger volume they now handle strains every system. The congestion is not just in the air. Miami's ground transportation situation, the access roads, the rental car facilities, the connection to public transit is a source of consistent frustration for travelers who discover, often too late, that getting to and from the airport is its own separate ordeal. The airport sits in the middle of one of the most congested road networks in America. Miami is a city that deserves a world-class international gateway. What it has is an airport that is trying to be that airport with the infrastructure of a smaller, quieter time. Now imagine landing at MIA after a red-eye from South America. You need to connect to a domestic flight in 45 minutes. You clear customs. The terminal is packed. Your gate is in a different concourse. Your connection is already showing a delay. And then it is not showing a delay. It is showing canceled. You are in Miami. You are not going anywhere. soon. Number 8. Charlotte Douglas International Airport, CLT. Charlotte Douglas is the 6th busiest airport in the United States and the primary hub for American Airlines on the East Coast. More than 57 million passengers move through it every year, the vast majority of them connecting. CLT is not a destination airport. It is a machine for moving people from one flight to another as efficiently as possible. It has not always been efficient. In 2025, Charlotte ranked among the top 10 most disrupted airports in America, with 23% of flights delayed or canceled. The airport has one runway configuration, 2 parallel sets of runways, and in bad weather, that configuration creates bottlenecks that ripple across hundreds of connecting flights simultaneously. When Charlotte slows down, American Airlines' entire East Coast network feels it. Delays generated at CLT cascade to airports in Boston, New York, Washington, and across the Southeast. The terminal itself is a single long concourse, one of the longest airport concourses in the world, with gates stretching so far that connections requiring a full terminal transit can mean a 20-minute sprint for passengers who have just landed. There are moving walkways. They help. They do not fully solve the problem of putting 50 million connecting passengers through a building that was not designed for this volume. Now imagine landing in Charlotte with 30 minutes to your connection. Your gate was B12. Your connection is in E44. You start running. The moving walkway ends. You keep running. You arrive at E44 breathing hard. The gate is closed. The flight left 2 minutes ago. That is Charlotte. That is a Tuesday in Charlotte. Number 7. Orlando International Airport, MCO. Orlando International is the 10th busiest airport in the United States, serving more than 50 million passengers a year, most of them heading to or from the theme parks that define Central Florida's economy. It is one of the few major American airports where the majority of passengers are leisure travelers rather than business travelers, which means the baggage is heavier, the lines are longer, and the stress is distributed across every age group, including the very young and the very tired. In 2025, MCO ranked consistently among the most disrupted airports in America, with 24% of flights affected. It also topped MarketWatch's 2024 customer survey as the worst airport in the country for layovers. Not the worst for delays, the worst for the experience of being stuck there. There is a difference. The terminals at MCO are built around a hub and spoke design that requires passengers to take an automated people mover between the main terminal and the airside terminals. When it works, it is fine. When it is crowded, and it is almost always crowded, the experience of moving through MCO with luggage, children, or a tight connection is one of the more reliable sources of travel misery in American aviation. Florida summer weather adds a layer of chaos that no airport design can fully mitigate. Afternoon thunderstorms ground flights with regularity from June through September, and the backlog those storms create can persist through the evening and into the next morning. Now imagine navigating MCO on a July afternoon with 2 young children, a stroller, and a flight to catch. The people mover is packed. The lines at security are 30 minutes. The storm that rolled in 2 hours ago is still causing delays, and the kids have been awake since 5 in the morning. Orlando is a great place to visit. Getting through its airport is another matter entirely. Number 6. Chicago O'Hare International Airport, ORD. Chicago O'Hare is the second busiest airport in the United States. It is the primary hub for both United Airlines and American Airlines, which means that on any given day, it is simultaneously managing 2 massive connecting operations alongside international arrivals, cargo, and general aviation. It handled nearly 100 million passengers in 2024. It is, in the most literal sense, one of the engines of American aviation. And in 2025, it was the single most delayed major airport in the country. Data shows that 28% of all O'Hare flights were delayed in 2025. The highest rate of any major U.S. airport for the full year. That figure reflects everything that makes O'Hare structurally difficult. Chicago weather, which delivers ice in winter, and severe storms in summer with equal reliability. 2 airlines running competing hub operations with overlapping infrastructure. A runway configuration that was designed for less traffic. And an airport that has been under construction, in some terminal or another, for what feels like decades. The O'Hare modernization program is real and ongoing. New terminals are being built, Runways have been reconfigured. The airport of 2030 will be genuinely different from the airport of today. But the airport of today is where the passengers are. And the passengers of today are experiencing delay rates that no major hub in the world should be comfortable with. Now imagine your O'Hare connection in January. Your inbound flight is late because of Chicago weather. Your connection is in a different terminal. The shuttle bus takes 11 minutes. You make the gate with 4 minutes to spare, and the flight has already pushed back. You spend the next 2 hours at a United customer service desk. O'Hare has everything a great airport needs. It just cannot always use it. Number 5. Philadelphia International Airport, PHL. Philadelphia International Airport serves the 5th largest metropolitan area in the United States and one of the most historically significant cities in the country. It handles more than 32 million passengers a year and sits at the intersection of the Northeast Corridor's rail network and the broader Mid-Atlantic aviation market. By location and by market size, it should be one of the great airports of the American Northeast. It has been for years one of the worst rated. In J.D. Power's 2024 North America Airport Satisfaction Study, Philadelphia ranked last among large airports, the lowest score of any comparable airport in the country. Passengers consistently cite outdated terminals, limited food and retail options, confusing layout, and a general sense that the airport has not been maintained at the level its passenger volume demands. In 2025, the AirHelp score ranked PHL among the 3 worst U.S. airports in its annual global report. The planned renovations, a $1 billion-plus investment in new facilities, offer real hope. The airport knows it has a problem. The problem is that for every year the renovations are delayed or incomplete, tens of millions of passengers pass through a facility that consistently ranks at the bottom of every major satisfaction survey conducted by every major research organization that measures these things. Philadelphia is a city that has the transit infrastructure, the geography, and the passenger base to support a genuinely great airport. It does not yet have that airport, and until the renovations deliver what they promise, millions of passengers will keep learning that the hard way. Now imagine arriving at Philadelphia for a domestic connection, walking through a terminal that feels like it was last renovated in the early 2000s, finding a food option that closed an hour ago, and sitting on a carpet that has seen better decades. You look at the departure board, your flight is delayed. Of course it is. Number 4. LaGuardia Airport, LGA, New York. LaGuardia is the smallest of New York City's 3 major airports and serves more than 30 million passengers a year out of a facility that sits on a narrow peninsula in Queens with almost no room to expand. For decades, it was known as the worst airport in America by almost every measure. Rundown terminals, chronic delays, impossible ground access, and a physical plant that was so outdated it prompted a sitting vice president to compare it unfavorably to airports in the developing world. The new Terminal B is a genuine architectural achievement. It is modern, beautiful, and by most accounts, a legitimate world-class facility, and it handles about half the airport. The other half is still LaGuardia. In 2025, LGA recorded 26% of flights delayed and 2.6% canceled, nearly matching Newark's numbers while serving fewer passengers. The ground access problem has not been solved. The air train that was supposed to connect LaGuardia to the subway system has been debated, planned, redesigned, and not built for years. Getting to LaGuardia from Manhattan still means a cab, an Uber, or a bus. In traffic that is, at peak hours, among the worst in the country. LaGuardia is a case study in what happens when you build an airport in the wrong place and then spend 80 years trying to fix a problem that cannot be fully fixed. The new terminal is real progress, but progress inside a constrained site with no transit access and chronic delays is progress with a ceiling. Now imagine trying to catch a 7 a.m. flight from LaGuardia out of Midtown Manhattan. You need to leave at 5 a.m. to be safe. The cab takes 40 minutes in light traffic. At peak hours, it takes longer. There is no train, there is no subway, there is just the road, and the road is always the road. And if that sounds like a uniquely New York problem, the next airport has turned the same problem into a national symbol. Number 3. John F. Kennedy International Airport, JFK. New York JFK is one of the most important airports in the world. It is New York City's primary international gateway, handling more than 62 million passengers a year and connecting the United States to more international destinations than any other airport in the country. A 2024 ranking named it the most luxurious airport in America based on lounges, luxury retail, and the on-site availability of champagne and caviar. If those are the things you care about, JFK is wonderful. If you care about getting where you are going on time, JFK has a different story to tell. In 2025, JFK saw 25% of flights delayed and 1.6% canceled, numbers that reflect a structural problem no renovation has fully solved. The airport's ground congestion is severe enough that in early 2025, FAA data showed a 47% increase in missed connections directly attributable to ground traffic at JFK Delta, and American announced the cancellation of approximately 300 combined weekly flights from the airport in response. The ongoing $42 billion transformation project, New Terminals, New Roadways, has hit persistent delays of its own, meaning the construction disruption continues while the promised improvements remain years away. JFK's layout, spread across 6 terminals operated by different airlines with different ground procedures, creates a passenger experience that requires navigating what is essentially 6 separate airports stitched together by a train and a set of roads that were not designed for this volume. Now imagine connecting through JFK on an international itinerary. Your terminal is T4, your connection is in T5. The AirTrain is your only option. It is running. You make it, and your connecting flight has a ground delay because the taxiway is backed up and your plane has been sitting on the tarmac for 40 minutes waiting for a gate. The champagne is very good. The experience around it is not. Number 2. Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood International Airport, FLL. Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood International is not a major airport in the way that JFK or O'Hare is a major airport. It has 4 terminals, 4 runways, and was built to serve a mid-size Florida market. What it was not built for is what it became. A budget carrier hub serving not just Fort Lauderdale, but, effectively, the entire South Florida market, including Miami overflow, cruise passengers, and a year-round flood of leisure travelers that overwhelms its facilities at nearly every peak period. In 2024, AirHelp ranked Fort Lauderdale as the worst U.S. airport overall. In 2025, it remained in the bottom tier, with nearly 28% of flights disrupted in the worst months. The airport's on-time performance has been among the lowest of any major Florida airport for multiple consecutive years. It sits 17 miles from Miami, which means it draws passengers from a massive catchment area onto a road network that is, particularly on weekends, completely overwhelmed. The terminals are cramped, the concourses are tight, the airport has been expanding, but every expansion is immediately absorbed by new volume. Fort Lauderdale is an airport that has been running to stand still for years, adding gates and capacity only to find that demand has already outpaced whatever was just built. Broward County, which operates the airport, has plans. There are always plans. In the meantime, tens of millions of passengers a year experience an airport that is too small for what it is being asked to do in a climate that adds weather delays on top of everything else. Now imagine arriving at FLL on a Sunday afternoon in March. Spring break. Every flight is full. The terminal is standing room only. Your bag takes 45 minutes to arrive. Outside, the rideshare pickup zone is chaos. You have been in Florida for 15 minutes, and you are already exhausted. And if an overcrowded leisure hub sounds frustrating, the next airport has spent 2025 demonstrating that it can fail in ways that go well beyond inconvenience. Number 1. Newark Liberty International Airport, EWR, New Jersey Newark. Liberty International Airport is the worst major airport in the United States. It is not a close call. It is not a matter of opinion. It is documented, measured, confirmed by every major passenger satisfaction study conducted over the past several years. J.D. Power, AirHelp, and every independent analysis that has looked at on-time performance, passenger experience, and operational reliability. Newark is last. It is consistently last. It has been last before, and in 2025 it did something remarkable. It found new ways to be last. On April 28, 2025, the Philadelphia Air Traffic Control Facility that manages Newark's airspace lost radar and communications with all aircraft in its control for 90 seconds. Controllers could not see the planes. They could not talk to the planes. For 90 seconds, the aircraft approaching one of the busiest airports in the northeastern United States were invisible. In the aftermath, a number of controllers took trauma leave under a contract provision, allowing them to step away after a psychologically traumatic event. The staffing shortage that created worsened an already compromised system, triggering a cascading wave of delays and cancellations that spread from Newark outward to Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago, and Dallas. On May 5, 2025, Newark had the most canceled and delayed flights of any airport in the world. 273 delays and 151 cancellations in a single day. In the weeks that followed, the FAA implemented a ground delay program that held all Newark-bound flights at their origin airports for an average of nearly 4 hours. An air traffic controller speaking to MSNBC said travelers should avoid Newark at all costs because it was not a safe situation for the flying public. United Airlines called for significant flight cutbacks. The Transportation Secretary announced a 3-year plan to rebuild the entire national air traffic control system and said, "What you saw in Newark, you will see variations of throughout the airspace, unless we act. The structural problem is old. Newark's airspace is among the most congested in the world, sharing approach corridors with JFK and LaGuardia in a geographic bottleneck that has no good solution." In 2024, its controllers were relocated from a facility on Long Island to Philadelphia, more than 100 miles away, connected by telecommunications lines that have repeatedly failed. Controllers reported multiple radar and communications outages after the move. The people who warned this was a mistake before it happened have been watching their warnings come true. In 2025, Newark scored the lowest of any U.S. airport in the AirHelp annual global rankings. J.D. Power has ranked it at or near the bottom of its mega airport category for consecutive years. It handled nearly 49 million passengers in 2024 while failing, measurably and documentably, to provide them with a safe, reliable, or acceptable experience. Now imagine sitting at a Newark gate in May 2025. The board says delayed, then delayed further, then your flight disappears entirely. A gate agent reads from a script. The terminal is full of people who have been here for hours. Somewhere above you, in a facility in Philadelphia, controllers are managing your aircraft with equipment that has already failed twice this month. You are at the worst airport in America, and everyone who built this situation knew it was coming. So there you have it, 10 airports, 10 different versions of the same problem. Some are victims of geography, stuck in congested airspace with no room to grow. Some are victims of their own success, built for a smaller time, overwhelmed by a larger one. Some have been neglected for decades and are only now beginning to receive the investment they needed years ago. And one managed, in the spring of 2025, to fail so completely and so publicly that it forced a national conversation about the infrastructure that holds American aviation together. The passengers on this list are not statistics. They are the person who missed a connection in Charlotte, the family stranded at Orlando with exhausted children, the traveler who sat at a Newark gate watching a departure board cycle through delay after delay, while controllers in Philadelphia lost radar contact with their plane. They bought a ticket, they showed up, they asked the system to do the one thing it exists to do. Some of those airports are trying to get better. Some of them have a long way to go. Thanks for watching.